Hey guys, it's Kyla at the MJC, and I am back with the next video in our segment about the marital settlement agreement without minor children. And this time we're going to be looking at the division of real estate section right here on page 3. But before we get into it, as always, I just want to remind you guys that nothing in this video is intended to be legal advice. It's a video, so I'm not able to analyze your specific situation, to evaluate whether this is the right form for your situation, whether a court is likely to be able to approve what you and your spouse are agreeing to, or whether what you're asking for is what's best in your situation. So if you have those sorts of questions, I would definitely recommend getting some brief legal advice or some legal advice. You can get brief legal advice for free here in Milwaukee County from the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics. If you're in a county other than Milwaukee, you can contact your clerk of court to find out about pro se resources in your area. All right, so we'll jump into the division of real estate section. So if you and your spouse do not have any real estate, so that means you don't have any real estate together and neither of you owns any real estate. So you don't own a house, you don't own hunting land, you don't own a duplex, you aren't like a 1/4 co-owner of some land with your siblings or anything like that, then all you have to do is check number 1, neither party owns any real estate at this time, and that's it. That is all you have to do for this section. So that is great. It's, if you don't have any real estate, check number 1 and move on to the next video. But what about those of you that do have real estate? If you do have real estate, or one or the other of you owns it, if anyone owns any real estate, you'll check number 2. And then you have 2 options. A is if you own a primary residence, so a location where one or the other of you lives. That's going to be A. And I think that's the most common situation, but that's also going to take the longest to explain. So I'm going to really quickly cut down to other real estate. So you will check A, again, in most situations, but you'll check B if the real estate that you own is not a primary residence. So if you own a timeshare, if you own a rental property, if you own a any proper hunting land, if you own any property that isn't your primary residence, you're going to check B, and then you're going to fill out Schedule A. And there's a video at the very end of this series of videos that talks about filling out Schedule A. So you'll do that. You will also check B if you have 2 primary residences. So in our situation, if John Smith has 1 primary residence and Jane Doe has another residence that is her primary residence, then you will check A and fill out A, which I'm going to show you in a minute, and then you'll also check B and fill out Schedule A for the second primary residence. So that's option 1, or one option. But here's the most common thing. You have a piece of property and it is a primary residence. So it is a place where somebody, one or the other or both of you lives. In that case, you're going to go here. You're going to check primary residence. You're going to put in the address, and I always have to look that up in John's financial disclosure. You guys will most likely not have to look up your own address, but since John's address is made up, I do have to go look it up. So we'll do that. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53216. And I'm just going to take the additional information off the top here. So you've got that. Then you'll need the parcel identification number, or sometimes the parcel ID is called a tax key number. If you have that, so if you have your most recent property tax statement and you can get the property ID off that, great. If not, if you need to look that up, you can do that by going to the city assessor's webpage. So for City of Milwaukee properties, note that is City of Milwaukee, not Milwaukee County, you can go to My Milwaukee Home. And if you just Google My Milwaukee Home, it's usually the first or second hit on that. And that will bring you to this little address search. You search by address to get that information. Now, John's address is made up. So I'm going to actually search the courthouse address just because It is a property I know of in Milwaukee. I know it'll give us an actual hit. And obviously we don't want to search, random addresses and pull up random folks' information. So I went ahead and searched it. Obviously here, instead of Milwaukee County, you would hope to see that the owner of the property is you or your spouse. And you can see right here, it lists the tax key. So you've got that tax key information. It should be, I believe it's 10 digits typically, and you would just put that in here. Now, I'm not going to put in that number because that's the courthouse, so I'm going to put in our made-up number for John and Jane's property in there. But again, you're going to put your real one that you pull from the city assessor's office. If you are not in the city of Milwaukee, you should be able to find the assessor's office for the city where your property is located by searching city name, and then the state and assessor's office. So if you live up in Glendale, Wisconsin, city or assessor's office. If you live in Waukesha assessor's office. Same for Brown Deer, Fox Point, Cudahy, wherever it is that you have property. Or if you own property out of state, again, in theory, you should be able to find, the Chicago assessor's office. I bet theirs is split up. But in any case, you should be able to find that information. The second thing you need to get, so you got the tax key, perfect. There's one more piece of information you need before we navigate away from this site, and that is you're going to pull up the city assessor's details page, and it will take it a minute to load that, and then you're going to click on the tax key number over here, and it's going to pull up something that will look more or less like this. It's a mailing address, it's property sales information, but what we're interested in is see this legal description down here. Smith's, Aden, George, it's usually gobbledygook. Like you can see, it's not even sentences really, it's just this random stuff. But if you go back to our form, we need to attach a legal description. So you will want to print off a copy of this page so that you have a copy of that legal description. If you already have a legal description in your records, maybe you have one with your deed or it's listed on your mortgage or something like that, that's fine. You can make a photocopy of pages from your records as well. But if you don't have a legal description, the assessor's property lookup page is a pretty easy way to find one. All right, so we've done all that. We've got the information about the property down. The next thing you'll want to do is indicate what's going to happen with the property. And again, you have two options. Option one is if it's just going to stay with one person. In that case, so if the property is going to be awarded to one of you and one of you will keep the property, you'll check number one and you'll indicate which person is keeping the property. If it is going to be joint petitioner A, or for those of you who are filing in a stipulated posture, if it is going to be the petitioner, so the person who was the original petitioner in a stipulated, or in a joint petitioner A, you'll check this first box. If it is going to be joint petitioner B, or for those of you, again, who started separately and are now working together, so you're stipulated, it would be whoever the original respondent was. And so again, remember this all basically comes back up to the caption. If you are this person, then you're going to be joint petitioner A or petitioner. If you're this person, respondent or joint petitioner B. So coming back down here, in our case, since I think in our financial disclosure, we said that John was it was a property he'd owned before they got married. So we'll check B. And then here, the main provision that you may put is refinancing requirements. So if both John and Jane are on the mortgage, then we'll want to put some indication of when John is supposed to have completed refinancing to get Jane's name off the mortgage. So we can say, joint petitioner B shall refinance by, and you put a date. You can put, whatever date it is you want. We'll say in our situation, they said 2 years from now, shall refinance by that date. So easy enough. But what if only John's name is on the mortgage? So what if Jane's name isn't on the mortgage? It never has been. Then you can just say no refinancing because only joint petitioner B on mortgage. So you can do it that way. So that is what you will do if you're awarding it to one person and the other. if you plan to sell the property. So neither one of you wants to live there, or maybe one or the other of you wants to live there, but you've decided that the most fair way to deal with it is to sell it, then you will check number 2. So it'll be 2A and then 2 again down here. And you'll have to answer a few questions about what's going to happen while it is on the market for sale. So question A is basically saying, while it's pending sale, while it's on the market to be sold, who's going to live there? Or if nobody's going to live there, who's going to manage it? Who's going to use it? That kind of stuff. Again, it can either be joint petitioner A, or again, for those of you who are stipulated, every time I say joint petitioner A, it's the same as the original petitioner. You can say it's going to be joint petitioner B, or again, for our stipulated folks, the original respondent. You can say that both of you are going to live there. It's going to be shared equally. Or if you have some other arrangement that doesn't fit into any of those 3, you can check number 4, and you would just type in here, to be used by, joint petitioner A on Wednesdays and joint petitioner B on Fridays, or whatever your agreement is. We'll say in our situation that it's going to be John has been living there, so we'll say he's going to keep living there while it's pending sale. Then we look at B. B is saying before it's sold, pending sale, who's going to pay the mortgage, taxes, and any insurance that comes up. Again, you can pick joint petitioner A, joint petitioner B, or you can say both people are going to share it equally. In our situation, since John is going to be living there, we'll go ahead and say he's also going to be paying the taxes. And then last but not least, pending sale, if there need to be any repairs, assessments, or any other sort of expenses that are related to the sale, who is going to pay those? And again, you can say joint petitioner A, joint petitioner B, and shared equally. And note, while I had these 2 match, they don't have to. So you could, in theory, say B is going to live there and A is going to pay the mortgage, or, A is going to live there and B is going to pay the mortgage and pay the sale expenses. So if you have questions about what your agreement should be, that's a great legal advice thing. But as far as like filling out the form, they don't necessarily have to match. But again, the more important, is it a good agreement if they don't match is a different question. So we'll say here that they're going to share any expenses related to the sale equally. Then the last thing you need to fill out in this section is how you're going to split the proceeds. So after the house sells, there will, the money will be used to pay off the mortgage and any other, sort of standard costs from the sale. But then, of whatever money's left over, how are you going to split it? And basically, you can put whatever division you want. You can have it be 50-50. You can have it be, 0-100. You can have it be 17 and 83. It's whatever way you want to divide it, except the only rule here is these 2 lines together need to add up to 100. So you can have it sort of divided any way you want as far as that goes. So we'll say they're going to split it 50-50. All right, so that is all for this real estate section. As always, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope that it was helpful. If you do have additional questions, you can either get legal advice if they're about what you should agree to, or if your questions are just about how to fit your specific agreement into the forms, we can definitely help with that sort of thing at the Milwaukee Justice Center. We are located in the Milwaukee County Courthouse, room G9. All right, but that is all for this video. Thank you guys for listening, and I hope that you all go out and represent yourselves well.